You're listening to the On Your Mark podcast, a space for honest conversations with the school system leaders shaping what's possible for early readers. From high-impact tutoring to building trust with families and teens, we dig into what it really takes to make early literacy work for all kids.
Hello, and welcome to the On Your Mark podcast. I am your host, Mindy Sjoblom, and I am excited to be joined today by Margaret Marotta, Superintendent of Haverhill Public Schools, and Bonnie Antkowiak, who serves as Assistant Superintendent. I've had the pleasure of getting to know these two women a little bit as we partnered together over the past year, and I am super excited that they are here today to tell us a little bit more about some of the magic that's happening in Haverhill. Margaret, Bonnie, welcome. So glad to have you both here today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Excited to be here.
I mean, when I get this chance to be able to talk with folks in leadership positions in districts, I always just love to start by hearing a little bit about your path to this seat. What has been your path to Haverhill, and why did you choose leadership? And let's go ahead and get started there. Margaret, you want to kick us off?
Sure. I never intended on being a superintendent, but here I am, 8 years in the same district. So that's a long time in superintendent years.
Sure is.
Came up through special education. Reading, I think, is at the heart of all education and something every kid needs to be able to do with, fluency and just really be capable at reading in order to do pretty much anything else in school or in life and beyond. So it's a passion of mine to make sure that all kids can read.
Cool. What about you, Bonnie?
I started off wanting to be an art teacher and went to school for that and somehow became an elementary school teacher. And I came to Haverhill and I was a para and a teacher and a head teacher and an assistant and a principal and a chief. And now I'm the assistant superintendent. And that is not the path I thought I was going to take when I started. When I was a principal, I was able to turn around a couple schools in Haverhill. And I really love seeing students having confidence in themselves and teachers confidence in teaching those students. And I think that's why I, became part of this job. And then I went, when I got into curriculum, I went and got my CAGs in reading instruction. So I think that really helped me understand what students needed.
That's why I knew we were kindred spirits right from the start when we started talking about reading and how to support kids who are struggling in reading, as that's been a deep part of both of your past. And Bonnie, I'm just curious, art teacher, what kind of art was your specialty before everything changed?
Yeah, I like doing I liked pottery, and I like doing more of portraits and watercolors.
Oh, very cool. So pretty comprehensive background that you were bringing into that space. That's awesome.
It's pretty crafty still, I got to say.
I like that. That's very cool. Yeah, I'm like, maybe there'll be some time for that when school is over in another week or so, right? We'll see. Awesome. Thanks for sharing your paths a bit. If you think off the top of your head, excuse me, I'm a little bumbly. What makes Haverhill a special district?
You want to start, Bonnie? You're the 30-year veteran here.
Oh. Yeah, that's impressive.
What do I think special about it? I think it's so diverse, right? Not only diverse in students, diverse in our landscape. And I think that a hilly is a hilly for life. Like when you come to Haverhill, people support each other, right? Like there are so many community organizations that support our schools, which I don't think you see as much as in other districts. Like there are always people there. If something needs to be done, people step up to the plate. And I think that's really what makes Haverhill special, because we know that our kids come from different backgrounds and we appreciate it and we find ways to meet those needs.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would second that. I think that the community is amazing in terms of supporting the schools and our many needs. As Bonnie says, it's diverse, but it's diverse in every way you can think about. Socioeconomically, we have, kids who come from, beautiful, $1 million homes and kids that are, homeless, sitting next to each other in class and, building bonds. And it makes it a unique teaching experience in some ways. But our teachers are really, many of our teachers have been here a very long time and are very committed to the school district. And it's really, it's impressive to see, the people who have been here for 25, 30 years and still going.
Yeah. I noticed that I had a chance to visit some of your schools. I guess it was probably in the late fall or early winter. And I noticed that I feel like everybody that I talked to was like, this is my third position or second school in the district. I started here as a brand new teacher, and that commitment to the district is so palpable. And that just having that connection helps kids.
Yeah, and that's important to us too, right? We want people to grow, and sometimes you feel like this job isn't for me anymore. Well, we're a big enough district where we can, help you find a different place without leaving Haverhill, and have a new experience, but and get the benefit of their experience and their knowledge.
And we also grew our own. Like last night, we were at school committee and we celebrated. We have a partnership with Merrimack College where our ESPs, they can go for 2 years and get their master's in education, and then they work for us once they graduate. So it's really, Margaret really has supported that initiative. It's huge. And we also have a 1-year fellow. So we have lots of opportunities for growth in our district. And I think, we see a lot of parents who start off, like there was a couple who started off as lunch monitors.
Yeah.
Got their master's in teaching, right?
That's amazing.
What we can do for their kids, and they want to be part of it.
It's so cool that you're able to recognize the potential in those folks and their commitment. I mean, clearly drawn by love for their own children, and then sharing that with other children in that space, and how that magic can really be turned into becoming great educators. So it's so awesome to see that there's that pathway, because so often we see folks like that who don't have the pathway. They would be great, but they're stuck. So it's really exciting to hear.
Yeah, we're kind of an urban oasis in a suburban world. So
yeah.
It's hard to gather people sometimes from surrounding communities. Sometimes we're better off taking people who understand our community and our kids, right, and bringing them along.
That's right. That's really cool. As a parent, I chose to actually raise my kids in, I think, a community that's pretty similar, like incredibly socially, economically diverse, and just see huge benefits to kids growing up around folks who are from different backgrounds from them across many different spectrums. I just wonder if you could speak a little bit to how you capitalize on that diversity for your district across the board. When we think about diversity as an asset, like how are you ensuring that your folks really have that opportunity to learn from folks who are different from them?
I think you're talking about diverse students, right? We really try to make sure that we have a cohesive curriculum that is standards-based, it has rigor, and everyone has access to grade level content, but we also make sure that we take data from things to make sure that we have those interventions in place, right? We have a really multi-tiered support system here. So we're able to help our struggling readers, but while they're struggling, we are still giving them access to grade level content. And I think that's the biggest thing that we've done over the last few years, is make sure that we're cohesive and that we're really striving to make sure that all our learners have the opportunity to see, hear, and be part of grade level content.
Yeah.
And I think I would build on that to say that we know that when kids struggle in school, they don't like to come to school. So we need a hook for them. So we've spent a lot of time and frankly a lot of money over the last few years, like removing fees and removing barriers for students. We've removed all our user fees, all our sports fees, all our events for kids to get into. And we've seen a great increase in the diversity of our sports teams and our
That's incredible.
Events. So then, kids, like, they have a reason to come to school, right? And let's face it, sometimes it's not math, it's not reading, but those relationships and find a home at school so we have a hook to get them for the academics.
And to build on that, we've also increased our CTE programs for students who have a different pathway that might not be college. We have early college, we have fine arts programs, we have classical academy. We have a lot of things that students can go to for differing abilities, right, and skills that they have. So it's not a one-shot deal. Like, you're not just coming to the high school to get your college degree. Like, we hope that everybody goes to college, but what we hope for is that everybody leaves with a purpose and a vision of what they want to become, right, and a pathway to get there.
That's incredible. And I am excited to start digging in a little bit more into how reading plays into that, and especially when we start thinking about where we want to see kids go in their futures. And I just read the great news that you were chosen as a spotlight district by DESE for your secondary literacy work. That's an incredible honor. And I just would love to hear a little bit more about what makes your secondary literacy programming strong, and why did you receive the spotlight?
I think a lot was the implementation of it. We made sure that teachers were a part of choosing what we were going to have, and I think it all started with we did walkthroughs, and our students are changing all the time and their needs are changing. And what we were doing wasn't for all our students. So we said, what can we do? We have these highly qualified materials and elementary and middle. It's time to make that happen in our higher grades, right? So we looked at Odell, we looked at StudySync, and our teachers really, they wanted Odell. So we said, all right, let's go to other schools. Let's see how they're doing it. Let's see how they're implementing it in districts that look like ours, right? So we can see how those struggling readers are, because it's tough, right? You're doing on grade level content in a high school, and it's different because a lot of high schools don't have curriculum, right, in their ELA. So it's something that we had to make sure that our implementation was really strong with professional development for our teachers, because you don't get buy-in from everybody. Like, that's just life. So how do we get buy-in? How do we make sure that when we're giving our professional development, we're not only giving it to our regular classroom teachers, but we're also giving it to our ML teachers, our special ed teachers, everybody who's going to be touching a student, right? That they know what's going on. And we implemented it slowly. We did grades 9 and 10 this year. And then some 11 and 12 teachers decided to try it out, but now it'll be fully implemented next year. So we could see where the bumps in the roads were, like starting it off slowly. So we knew we could even make it stronger as we go on. And I think the teachers really, like Margaret can tell you, from walking in the fall and walking in now, it's two completely different classrooms where kids are taking ownership of their learning. And that's what you want.
Yeah, I would agree. And I mean, I don't think I think we're a spotlight district for implementation, right? We're not there yet, right? We're not getting it right in every class every day. But we've been very persistent and very thoughtful and systemic in rolling it out. And that's not to say we didn't have some pushback from the teachers in the beginning, right? And I think that may be why we're a spotlight district, because there was that pushback that we can't do this, the kids can't do this, those conversations. Hard, that is a hill that you have to get over, because it is different and it is hard, and we stuck with it, and our teachers stuck with it, and they had their concerns and their complaints along the way, and we tried hard to listen and respond to them in ways that they knew we were hearing them, and to make changes along the way, to be sort of to have a plan but to be flexible about it, right, so that we could hear what was going on.
And we're lucky we have our ELA supervisor who's housed in the high school. So she's able to be right there. We have a dean who's housed there. And we have an associate principal who is very much in the trenches, planning with them, meeting with leadership teams. So we're lucky that our leadership bought in, right?
Yeah.
And I think that says a lot. Like, if you have people who are buying from the top and working with people who are the hands-on in the classroom, they feel like they can say what they want to say and move forward, that's huge, right? Communication. I mean, shout out to all those people who helped that implementation.
100%, because while it is the science of reading, it's still all about people, right? It's still about the delivery of the instruction. It's still about the buy-in. It's still about the art of teaching. So we needed all that aligned, and having those great leaders listening to those great teachers as they struggled through it made all the difference, I think.
And I mean, they even changed around prep planning periods to make sure that special ed teachers and ML teachers could be part of the planning, co-planning together, right? They heard that and they made changes midway through. So, and that's difficult, but they did it.
That's great. And it's exciting for me as a former high school principal just to hear more about the high quality instructional materials moving themselves up into the high school space. Because yes, Bonnie, to your point, a lot of times in high school, it's kind of a free for all, right? Like we have standards, and then, teachers do the hard work of creating things to go with it. But to know that there's that space now for high school teachers to really be able to grapple with what does it mean to get kids on grade level text and doing that grade level work. And I can hear some of my former teachers being like, but kids are really struggling to access this. How did you address those challenges for those students who were maybe behind and were having a hard time really, grappling with that grade level text?
Yeah. And I think that's where the professional development came in with our specialists, right? And our ML teachers and our special ed teachers, but we also added more interventionists this year.
Okay.
So that we had interventionists who could go in and help with those students. And we saw it working, but not as well we wanted to. So they're relooking at it for next year, how they could have interventionists in with students, like looking at the data, how they can help them right there in the moment instead of pulling them into a different block.
More co-teaching. Many of the classes are co-taught, right? Because the issue, I think, for us and for many schools, I'm sure, is that while we have a really solid reading program at the K-8 level now, or at least at the K-7, we didn't. So there's the gap for many kids in between who are now many years below grade level. And hopefully in 5 years, that will be, much fewer students and a much smaller gap. But right now, we're kind of paying for the sins of the past, and it's tough.
And we have supports for our 8th graders coming up. We have what we call the bridge, right? So if we have students who are having trouble in their ELA classes and going into the high school, we've created transition for them where we can help them get what they need in the skills before they walk in the 9th grade. And they're also making like a 9th grade, what do we call it, Margaret?
A cohort?
A little cohort, 9th grade cohort, where they have like core teachers that they'll be with. So it's more support for them.
That's incredible. It sounds like there's just a lot of intentionality around making sure that all students are able to be included in the changes that you all have been rolling out, and that teachers feel supported to be able to do that too. I mean, I'd love to let's roll it back now, because one of the things, Margaret, you were just mentioning was that you've done a lot of the work already in the K6, K8 space to make sure that you have a really coherent curriculum that is rooted in the science of reading as well. Tell us more about that process and what you did to get there, and what the impact has been on teachers and kids accordingly.
When we decided to go with Wit and Wisdom for our K through 5, we had some piloted schools that we did under our PRISM grant. And same thing, implementation, making sure that everybody was trained. The ELA supervisor and I also got trained as trainers in Wit and Wisdom to make sure that when we talked to our coaches and our interventionists, we knew what we were saying too. We might have been this far ahead of them, but at least we were this far ahead of them, right? We made sure that we did curriculum work too, so that we had a curriculum team in the summer, and we'll be doing that. We do it every summer to make sure that we have people working together, looking at the curriculum, seeing the pacing guides, making sure we learn from what happened last year. Like, do we not get to module 4? Why didn't we get to module 4? What do they need module 4? Is the pacing too long on this? Is it too short on this? So we try to make guides for teachers too. So as an elementary teacher, you come in and there's so much curriculum because you're teaching everything, right?
Yeah.
We have a new teacher, so it's not totally overwhelming, that we have pacing guides, we have frameworks that they can come in and they can look at it so that they can easily understand. We have coaches in every school. We have interventionists in every school. When we did the middle school, we brought on that it was Study Sync, and it was during COVID because there wasn't a curriculum at all in middle school. It was kind of the Wild West a little bit. So we brought in Study Sync, and it really helped us because it had a very nice online portion for our students where they had ML and they had scaffolding that the kids could read things on their own level. So when we were doing our online remote learning, it was great, right? And as we came back, we're starting to look at it more and saying, all right, there's a lot of online, but we feel like Wit and Wisdom, we've seen such growth with it, and we have 5th grade in our middle schools. Wouldn't it be nice to have that in our upper schools? So we're piloting Wit and Wisdom this year in our 6th through 8th grade, right? So we're hoping that we have that continuity and cohesiveness among the district, because no matter what we decide we're going to stay with or get new, it's really important to us. We have such a transient population from within our own schools that go from here to here to here. Have those pacing guides, that we have the same curriculum, because we don't want anyone to lose that. We don't want it to be like a theirs and, everybody's getting the same thing. So that's kind of how and then we got to, we're doing it up to 8th grade now, and we're saying, all right, that high school, right? We can't lose them. We can't lose them all the hard work we're doing.
And digging deep into the data, right? Because it seems like no one curriculum answers all the issues for all the kids. So, our data in certain areas really jumped with Wit and Wisdom, and that's awesome. But in other areas, those components just weren't there. So looking at what other programs make sense to augment it, right? For all kids at a tier 1, a tier 2, and a tier 3. Because there's always going to be kids, no matter what you have, who struggle to learn to read. So, I think our goal at this point is to, really put as much as we can into tier 1, and hopefully over time shrink some of those tier 2 resources, because right now they're voluminous because of the backlog of kids who can't read. And just knowing that there's always going to be those tier 3 kids, our ML kids, our kids with, reading disabilities that are always going to need more, but to try to shrink down those tiers to be more like a triangle and less like an upside down cake, you know?
That's a really interesting metaphor.
As Margaret says it, that was one of the things that our MTSS, we have a group that really looks at MTSS. We have a handbook for it that we can guide people with. And we also have a tracker for every school. So anyone who is in an intervention or seems to be not getting a skill, we put them within the tracker. We track where they're going through iReady, through MyPass. And we regularly look at them to say, they've gotten that skill, they haven't gotten that skill. Where do we need to focus on?
That's great.
So it kind of keeps everybody on track.
That's great. This leads right next into what one of the things I care most about, because on Your Mark is built to support students who are struggling to learn how to read. And we first met as you all were seeking other intervention opportunities for some of your elementary school students. And Haverhill has been an early adopter of high-dosage tutoring in the state of Massachusetts. And took some risks in the early years to go and try some things out to see how it would end up supporting students. And it's been cool. Now Massachusetts is leading the country in really saying, no, we are going to ensure that we're going to put some resources behind making sure that kids who are struggling are getting support through high dosage tutoring. So I would love to just hear, your reflections on how high dosage tutoring fits into that puzzle for making sure that all kids are getting exactly what they need.
I feel like one of the things it does, it gives everybody an opportunity, right? We don't have unlimited staff, but we have a lot of students who have needs. So one of the things it does is it enables our students with needs during the WIN block, the What I Need to Know block. They're getting their tutoring, right, from somebody who knows what they're doing. It's not it doesn't take time from our staff, right, who are there in person. So they're able to take another group. We're seeing that they're building relationship, even though it's online, right? They have relationship. They look forward to seeing that person. And we've seen such good data from it that we're now using it in our summer program for the first time. So we're able to take, what we're doing during the year and expanding it for these students so they're not losing out. They're not, sliding back during the summer. And I think that's important. And I think it's help to the teacher too, right? There's so many focuses now in a teacher's day of who do I help and how do I get to them, that this is a takeoff for them, right? It really helps support them so that when they're in that WIN block, they know that, well, I'm with this group. I know those kids are still getting something, right?
That's
They're
right.
still having targeted, high quality instruction. So I think that's been like the best thing for us.
Yeah, I would second that. I think I was reading a recent study looking at education programs across the U.S. and saying that less than half of them were preparing the teachers to teach kids how to read. Right, so you've got new teachers who aren't prepared to teach kids how to read, and then you have older teachers or more seasoned teachers or whatever you'd like to call people like us
Seasoned. I like it.
Spicy. That had a different sort of pedagogy and were taught a different method. So we've got on both ends of the spectrum, we have great teachers who maybe aren't prepared to teach students how to read, particularly if they've had, a dearth of instruction in the past, or they're overage, undergrade level readers. So it's just been really great for filling that gap. And I think particularly at our middle schools this year, we're actually, in order to support the high dosage online tutoring, we're actually changing the schedules in our middle schools and moving away from waterfall schedules because it wouldn't allow us to do that. So we said, listen, this is working so great. And we have so many kids, making so many gains that we have to change our structures to make this happen. So across our middle schools, we've come up with a schedule.
That's awesome.
And that allows like all students to have the opportunity for academic growth. And I think that's like what Margaret's saying, like there were some students because we couldn't get to them all, right? That their opportunity wasn't there. So now they have the opportunity and now they're engaged in other areas because they're growing.
When I came to visit your implementation of On Your Mark, I believe it's mostly with third graders this year, and seeing it in the WIN time, I mean, exactly as you described, there was as soon as kids logged in to meet their tutors, you saw just sort of some of the weight lifted off of that teacher in that room, because then they were able to really focus on the kids who weren't getting tutoring in a way that is an awesome byproduct of being able to do virtual high dosage tutoring, right? And we think about it a lot as rising, rising tides raise all ships, and there's these byproducts of getting kids on tutoring that are also really incredible for kids as well.
And I got to tell you, Mindy, I was a major skeptic. I was like, this is ridiculous. They're going to go online and learn how to read. That's never going to happen. And Bonnie was like, oh, Margaret, we've got a grant. It's free. Let's just try it.
Give it a try.
Okay.
Praise for me.
I think it's really important to elevate that perspective, Margaret, because I speak with folks all the time who are like, we don't think this is going to work. And I think part of the magic of when you actually see it in implementation is that the relationships that tutors are able to build with those students through that, having that consistent tutor who is with them every single day, are pretty magical. And we see when kids end the year with their tutors, sometimes we see tears, we see tutors who are upset about it, just because they have really bonded with the kids in helping them in an area where they struggle.
Yeah, and it's terrible. I mean, I was a struggling reader. I have 2 kids that were struggling readers. I can tell you that it's a terrible feeling to be in school and feel like you can't keep up, and to have somebody who can, in that time that they're going to support you, that they're going to help you through it, and to see your gains, because when you're in 3rd grade, 4th grade, you're not there yet.
You do.
Yeah, and you want to feel good about it. And that sense of relief when you're, okay, this is my tutor, this is my person that's going to help me, and I'm going to get through that and start to see the light is so important.
I'd love to share just a little story. I don't know if it's bubbled up to you yet, but it was shared by my partnership manager who works most directly with your folks about a student at Hunking. So there's the facilitator's name is Kristen. And she shared with us that there's super high investment, but that some students have been overheard actually telling friends in the hallway that they can't be late for their win block because they have a meeting that they have to go to. And also that we had a student who was out sick for the day that had her mother email her teacher to get the tutoring schedule and then logged in from home so she wouldn't miss her session when she was sick. And that also just made the classroom teacher really delighted to see that kind of level investment from the student as well. So there's really some magic happening.
It gives students who are struggling a place to learn and not be judged, by peers or anything else, one-on-one. And I think that's one of the great things.
One of the things that I mentioned before that Massachusetts has been really smart about is by focusing some resources in 1st grade to make sure that they are able to more broadly fund these tutoring initiatives that you have been participating on. And you also have been using other funding sources in order to be able to spread that to other students. The experience of working in states where it's up to, legislatures to approve budgets, to approve funding, to be able to support this on an annual basis is also like, it's a bit of a wait and see, hurry up kind of game. And it means the funding is at risk on an annual basis. So I would just love to hear how you all think about that beyond just the DESE sponsored tutoring. What are other resources or ways in really tight financial climates that you think about being able to continue to provide these supports for kids?
Yeah, well, we're providing the supports. Like everything, it's a little bit from here and a little bit from there, right? Finding the money where you can. We have a community partner, Haverhill Promise, that provides some of our seats. They've seen the value of it, and they've been out looking for grants as well to support us. We use some of our Title I money. The PRISM grants in Massachusetts have been, wonderful for us. We couldn't do it without them because it's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is.
And the materials for the Tier 1 are expensive too, So, we're just furious grant writers.
And I think we are furious grant writers. And I think, Margaret, that's one of her priorities, right? And it's our school district's priority. So when we have a priority, we look at things on a list sometimes, right? Like this is high up there. It has to get done. And then when we prioritize from there. So I think that's how we get it done.
Yeah, we've been having budget cuts like everyone else this year. And, we went through our budget for months and months trying to figure out what can we eliminate. What we can't eliminate is interventionists. What we can't eliminate is classroom teachers. What we can't eliminate is high dosage tutoring. So these are the things we're holding sacred. So, okay, we might have to buy less, materials next year. We might have to deal with rationing paper. I mean, we're doing all sorts of things. Central office staff has been whittled down a bit. We're working, but if that's our North Star, if kids need to know how to read to be successful, then that's what we need to do, and that's our job.
Aligning resources to your priorities it sounds like the best way to tackle that problem. That is for dang sure. And I'm going to steal your phrase, furious grant writers, because sometimes I feel like I that one fits with me and my team as well. So that's a great one. Just to close out now, I'd love to zoom back out a little bit and just hear both of your perspectives around where you would like to see Haverhill 5 years from now. So if you're thinking ahead, and all of the different things that you've put in place, especially in reading, what would be magic for Haverhill in 5 years?
Well, I guess it's just strengthening our strand, right? I think our K to 5 strand very strong in ELA. I think that our middle school's getting there. We have our toes in the water with our high school, right? We want to make sure that it goes all the way up. And I think just making sure that when a student leaves, that we've given them the tools to succeed, and that's every student. And that sounds like, just a generic thing, but it's true. I think that's really our focus, is to make sure that we have a diverse population, and the way that we reach them is going to be different, right? For different kids. So you've got to have different pathways, but have the same end result, right? And make sure that they have those materials that they deserve to have, that every student deserves to have. So I guess just continuing what we're doing, and then being a model for other schools, like someone saying, oh, let's come to Haverhill because we want to see how great they did it.
Yeah, so I would agree with that. I'm a little bit more I don't know if competitive is the right word, but let's I
like it.
I like to look at our district compared to other gateway cities, right? Because I think you need to be, comparing to like populations, and of course compared to the state. But I see us climbing up the list as we have been for the last year in terms of outcomes, reading outcomes, third grade reading, graduation rates, those sorts of things, versus the other gateway cities. And I 5 years, for us to be at the top 1 or 2 gateway cities across Massachusetts in terms of our reading and our outcomes for high school graduation and those things. And I think that would be pretty fabulous.
I think it would be pretty fabulous too. And appreciate you both having your eyes on really making sure that you're doing what's best for your kids in the long run, and providing them with those kind of quality resources, materials, and then supports for those who are struggling, to also reflect the really diverse populations that you have and you're serving. I think that's incredible. And I will just say that we at On Your Mark, we just are so grateful for your partnership, as we've been learning so much with you along the way as well. And what our listeners don't know is that you all are like 3 school days away from the end of the school year, and you took the time to come and share some of the things that you've been learning with me today, and I'm just so grateful for that. So thank you so much for the time.
And we're grateful for you. You guys have been great partners and really supportive of our schools and working with us. So thank you for that.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, here's to a great wrap up of the school year, and hopefully a fabulous and relaxing summer as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Mindy.
Thanks for joining us on the On Your Mark podcast. If today's conversation sparked a question, idea, or story of your own, we want to hear it. Connect with us on LinkedIn or YouTube, or visit onyourmarkeducation.org to discover how we're accelerating early literacy through powerful school partnerships and evidence-based intervention.